Cuban. All right, Rob, let's get to it. Mark Cuban, NBA owner of the Dallas Mavericks, the most outspoken owner in the NBA. Now remember, he voted along with all the other owners unanimously before the season started to have the play-in tournament, which basically gives the 9th and 10th seeds in each conference a chance to make the playoffs, like one final shot. And now, though, he has changed his tune. He and Luka Doncic. Luka obviously didn't vote on it, but Luka came out and said he's against it. It doesn't make sense to him. And then Cuban, perhaps, he was just backing his superstar, but he came out and seconded what Luka said. Rob G, kind of summarize it and read a little bit of Cuban's quote for us.
Yeah, the Cubes, who decided that he didn't want to put out an actual news conference or any kind of interview. He decided, I'm going to do this all via the DM, like these kids are doing these days. And he was messaging with Tim McMahon from ESPN, and here's what he said. I get why the NBA is doing it, talking about the play-in tournament. But if we're going to be creative because of COVID, we should go straight 1 through 20 and let the bottom 4 play in. This year in particular, to do it, since 10 games are cut from the 82-game schedule, we're in conference. The worst part of this approach is that it doubles the stress of the compressed schedule. Rather than playing for a playoff spot and being able to rest players as the standings become clearer, teams have to approach every game as a playoff game to either get in or stay in the top 6, since the consequences, as Lucas said, are enormous.
But a few things. Number one, 1 through 20. So he's saying basically forget the conferences, which I would be cool with. I've been saying that for a decade or so now. Just take the 16 best records. The East has gotten better. It's certainly got some of the top teams in the league. Now it's not as bad as when it was so lopsided. But still, I think it'd be great to just go with the top 16 records. But he's saying go with the 20 best records and have the last 4 teams play in. What's the difference? So I don't get that, number one. And then number 2, he says teams are having to play hard for the entire season because they got to get their seeding right? To finish in the top 6. Okay, that happens at times in every year. There are teams that are battling for that 8th seed, and they got to go hard for the full 82. There are teams that are battling for the 4th seed so they can have home court advantage, or maybe even, a 2nd or even a 1st seed because it'll help them in the playoffs. They're battling, so they will still go hard. And remember, this season's only 72 games. So you're 10 games less anyway. So I don't agree with that. I'll just say this quickly because I want to hear your views on this. I get what he's saying. They're playing a lot of games together. That's the one point I think he makes, is that they are cramming more games into a shorter period of time. But to me, the mistake was starting the season on Christmas Day, as great as that was, and I enjoyed watching the games, but they gave the players too little time off, 71 days, when they're used to almost twice as many as that. And now you see, look, maybe they would have got injured anyway, but LeBron, AD, Joel Embiid, Jamal Murray just goes down. Maybe some of these injuries are related to the players not getting as much time off. So I think you just should have started when the players wanted to play fewer games, and then you wouldn't have had this issue that Cuban's worried about.
Yeah, I'm against all this stuff. Like, to me, it further invalidates the regular season. Why do you need to have other teams who might be under 500 or haven't really played well enough have playoff games? It's just a money grab. Go back to traditional of leaving it the way it is. Stop rewarding people for not playing well. We saw it in the NFL last year. Washington, wound up making the playoffs with an under 500 record. I just don't like it at all. I really don't. I think it's too much. I got it. Last year, baseball did something because of the COVID and they only played 16 games. I would be against that. 16 of the 30 major league teams making the playoffs. I just even where You might have a little excitement to it. It just, you don't want to get to the point, and you see it in the NBA already, where people just want to wait for the playoffs. Like, it doesn't even matter. And once you do that, once you really make people feel like the regular season doesn't matter, I think you'll see the effects of it'll have on your game. And I'm not for rewarding subpar teams who haven't played well enough to make the playoffs. Make it something that you're fighting for, that you're trying to go for. And instead of just thinking about television revenue, if it's about television revenue, then freak the whole season and just let everybody make the playoffs, all right, and then make it be a crapshoot. But why? I don't understand. If you're going to let 16 or 20 of the 30 teams in, what's the difference between putting all 30 in? If it's just about, well, it's a play-in. Let's have the last 5 bad teams play and see who's good, and then they move up, and a round-robin tournament, and then they move up, and let's just keep playing and make it like college basketball early on until you get further along. So it's what's the difference? If you're going to do 20 teams or you're going to do 30 teams?
Well, there's a difference in that. That's 10 teams. You
got a one-game playoff. They all play on one day. And then you could just move. Everybody makes the playoffs before the playoffs start.
I don't have I think you agree with Cuban, but it sounds like for different reasons than him. You just don't like, getting these extra teams. I like it. Now, look, I guess they're experimenting again like they did last year in the bubble, and we'll see if they decide to carry this on. But I like it. I think it adds a little more excitement to the regular season in that you've got more teams, that have life. Like, and look, I do admit, Rob, in the East, I couldn't care less about the play-in the East. Because after the first, after the top 5 or 6 in the East, it's pretty mediocre from that point on. So who cares?
But that's the point.
About
so
the
then you got
but in the West, it won't be. In the West,
but you got the bottom.
In the West, I might see Steph Curry. I might see Zion. Like, in the West, because it's deep, I think the play-in will be exciting and fun. And it's not a 7-game series, thankfully. It's just a 1 or 2 game, series. So I think that I like it. And we'll see how it works this year and whether or not they want to continue it. But I do get what Luka's saying, Rob, when he says we're playing 72 games already. You shouldn't need a 1 or 2 game playoff to determine, who that those 7th and 8th teams are. However, Rob, I got to admit, in baseball, it's even worse when they would have the 162 game season and then a 1-game playoff.
How is it worse when there's only 10 teams out of 30 making the playoffs?
Because it's 162 games.
But it's only 10 teams, though.
games down to 1 game. But here's my point.
I'm talking about the number of teams involved.
No, that's
it's not
fine,
a bad team. It's a good team.
But Luka's point is you got a long regular season that determines who the better teams are. A 1 or 2 game stretch or play-in doesn't tell you as much as the 72 games did. So that's what he's saying, which I agree with. But my point is baseball, which made even less sense if you're playing 162 games and then you only play a 1-game wild card. But here's the thing. I like that game. It is exciting. It is. It's like you talked about, Rob, with March Madness. The 1-game elimination makes it exciting. And ultimately, it's about creating excitement with the fans. So,
but you could do that with every
cool
team. Then you could do that with the whole league. Have a 1-game at the end with teams that finish under 500 because it would be exciting and you would sell out and people would watch because they would be eliminated. My point is, you would negate what the regular season stands for, and I think that's the damage that's being done or could be done by doing it. That's what I'm talking about. You don't want to make the regular season irrelevant. And the more teams you add and the more Washingtons that make the playoffs just to lose in the first round, what is the point of that? It should be the teams that have excelled and earned a spot in the playoffs. That's it.
All right. Yeah, I'm cool with it because this year, when I see Zion and Steph in the play-in, I'm going to be excited.